What is a Sigma personality? People who identify as Sigma personality types will often feel like they don't fit in, but this is because they have a natural tendency to think differently from most other people. It's not uncommon for them to feel misunderstood by those around them, despite being able to understand them very well on their own. This can lead many Sigmas to develop rather strong emotional defense mechanisms, allowing them to cope with people who misunderstand or judge them, without knowing much about what it means to be a Sigma personality type. How Sigma males are created. As children, we learn from the people around us and society. These factors interact with our genes to form who we are as adults. The interactions between these things will determine how a Sigma turns out later in life. Suppose they were raised in a negative environment where their ideas weren't accepted, or where they got yelled at for speaking their minds. In that case, they're going to turn into someone very different from those raised where their ideas were accepted and encouraged, even if other people didn't always agree with them. This is what defines whether or not a Sigma is born or created, how valuable that person's opinions are, either by themselves or others. Choosing whether a Sigma is born or created is very difficult, because there are many variables involved in this decision-making process. There's no right answer to this question, but it will definitely take a bit of both for someone to turn out the way they do later on in life. Is Sigma male born or created? The question is difficult to answer because it involves three very complicated concepts together: nature versus nurture, intent versus happenstance, and the balance between the two. Nature is what makes the Sigma men through personality type, as well as genetics. Sigma men are born with certain personalities that make them who they are. Nurture involves their environment, how they were raised, and what they learn from others around them that will shape who they become later on in life. Intents refer to how something was done intentionally or not. If a person was raised in a very negative household where their ideas weren't accepted, then the intent behind this would be to tone down themselves, so they don't upset anyone else. On the flip side, if a person is raised by parents who accept their children's ideas and no matter what, then there's no intent to change themselves. Happenstance is life's events going a certain way or not. It's the path you would take if left to chance. It can be good or bad depending on what happens and how things turn out. If something bad happened in childhood, that person might tend to make better choices later on, so it doesn't happen again. However, if everything went their way as a child, they'll probably treat others the same even when they grow up, because of all this success and happiness happening around them. As you can tell, all three concepts together are very complex and don't have a right or wrong answer. It's difficult to narrow down because it takes many factors into account, and how their individual influences affect who we become later in life. Since there's no right answer as to whether a Sigma is born or created, the best way to approach this question is with a balanced perspective and understanding of all three concepts. So, is Sigma male born or created? The answer can definitely be both. A Sigma can be both born and created, because genetic predispositions towards certain personality traits would not exist, if that person hadn't had parents and a society and culture to interact with them. You're born with your genetics and personality type, but the way you grow up playing into it also. Societies have different views on how to raise children, which is why there are so many different types of personalities out there. Your environment plays a huge role in shaping who you are, from childhood and beyond. If a Sigma had nothing but good experiences growing up, chances are that he will turn out more balanced, than if life was full of negative stressor at every turn. So while a Sigma is born Sigma, they are also created through their experiences later on in life as well. Sigma males are definitely both born and created, because there's no denying genetics play a role in who we become, along with society's beliefs about how people should be raised growing up. While everyone has free will to choose whether they want to act one way or another, there are still certain expectations a person should meet as part of being in society. It's up to us as individual people to decide if we want to go our own way, or conform and follow guidelines laid out by others around us. Although difficult, it is possible for Sigma to break free from their introversion and be more extroverted, so they can connect with others better. But most Sigmas would rather keep a bit of distance between themselves and other people, because they prefer solitude and have trust issues when it comes to opening up emotionally. this also depends on how developed your personality is at that time. For example, this is why fake personalities exist among individuals who wish they were different people, but they don't really know how to do it, or have no intent of trying. Some may go through a rebellious phase, and want to express themselves in ways that would be considered out of character for them. Thus their personality is definitely created, because there's an intent behind it. Yet this experiment goes away as quickly as it appears, because the individual realizes that changing who you are completely takes effort and work, something most Sigma males aren't willing to put in, unless the person has actually become created by surrounding influences. A Sigma man can definitely change over time from society's conditioning. Yet, if the basic personality type never changes, they may simply develop another aspect into their life, where they're comfortable expressing these traits, instead of changing completely. For example, a Sigma may become more social as a teenager, when they start hanging out with people who aren't afraid of being around other people. Ironically, this is how many introverts accidentally end up becoming extroverted, because their personality adapts to those around them, and they simply make the best of what's available. It could be considered more difficult to change one's personality type than to develop a new trait, or decide that you want to try something outside your usual routine. However, both are possible depending on the individual and the effort put into it. Since no two individuals are alike, it makes perfect sense why some would naturally stay true to themselves, while others might find it to adjust and accept society's expectations of them. Many Sigma men would rather keep to themselves, only around those they care about or people who don't try to be fake, in order to gain more friends. This would indicate that there is an aspect of choice involved when it comes to being introverted or extroverted. Even so, this is a decision most Sigma males make based on their preference, since being introverted also has its own perks too. While everyone changes over time as they grow up and mature emotionally, it doesn't seem unusual for an individual's personality type to remain the same, regardless of society's expectations. There are numerous factors that influence how we act and the choices we make, so a Sigma personality will likely be more influenced by their desire to rebel against society, than trying to fit in with everyone else. Conclusion. The personality type of Sigma is both born and created. An individual can change their personality from society's conditioning. Still, it seems unlikely for them to completely change who they are as a person, if the basic personality type never changes. In other words, an introverted Sigma may become more extroverted at times, out of rebellion against the normality and expectation that being social is important in various aspects of life. However, this will depend on the individual themselves, and how much effort they put into changing themselves. For example, some people might adjust quicker than others, depending on the expectations set forth by family members when growing up. The point here is that although you can't control whether someone was born with certain traits or not, you can control whether or not you choose to change who you are, in order to fit into a particular lifestyle, or even for the sake of fitting in.